Hello wonderful interpreters, and thank you again for tuning in. We are getting ready for our unfair labor practice hearing on September 13th, but today I want to talk to you about an online petition that was brought to my attention. This petition is asking LNI to change our working conditions. While this effort appears to be sincere at first, you must be careful before signing this, and I'll show you why, so let's get started. Some of you have probably seen this link for the petition, and this is what it looks like, right? Our own Elena Birreta sent me this link. She is a Washington Interpreters Board member, and she received a direct email from the author of this petition, Ligia Giovannoni, who identifies herself as an LNI interpreter. Now, I was able to confirm that Ligia is a certified medical interpreter, as you can see here. However, this is a list that we received from PERC a few months ago, provided by LNI for our election process. It contains all of the interpreters who are active or inactive as of February earlier this year. I'm blocking the names to protect the privacy of LNI interpreters. So the Giovannoni last name is nowhere to be found here. So I was a little confused, right? Maybe she started taking appointments this year after registering with the scheduling system, I thought. So there was one more place to look, which is the NPI registry. However, an interpreter shared this message with me coming from a WhatsApp group. It says Ligia used to work as an LNI interpreter 12 years ago and recently came back to work again, even though there's no evidence of it so far, right? Now, you may be thinking, what's the problem? Petitions are good, Juan, right? Well, let's take a look at the petition itself. But before doing that, this is the NPI registry, which shows a certification date as of September 2nd, 2020 for Ligia. It appears she applied for an NPI number in order to be able to register with My Language Link, aka Interpreting Works, because that's a requirement, as you all know. Now, these are the contents of the petition. So there is a lot to unpack here. Please feel free to pause this video at any time in order to read the information that you see on the screen. So the petition starts by, quote-unquote, demanding bargaining items that only the union that wins the election will have the right to demand. Remember that. Also, LNI is prohibited by law to change our working conditions while our election process is pending with PERC. Remember that LNI already broke the law back on April 12th, earlier this year, with their scheduling system implementation while restricting independent interpreters and eliminating businesses. That's why we are having an unfair labor practice hearing this month. Now, going back to the petition, you can see the same propaganda from WFSE leaders here. It says that LNI's payment policies are the reason many interpreters are unethical and harass patients? Huh? It also says that these policies somehow create bad relationships with providers so that invoices show lengthier durations? Guys, if you sign this, you agree that, quote-unquote, many LNI interpreters are unethical and corrupt and inflate their bills because they don't get enough work? Look, this is ridiculous, okay? This is WFSE propaganda 101. So Ligia, who created this petition, seems to be friends with America Breton, another WFSE Local 1671 leader. This explains how she has such strong and weird views, since she used to work LNI appointments 12 years ago, according to other interpreters, absent for 12 years. You see, WFSE Local 1671 leaders are always alienating and trying to find dirt on LNI interpreters in order to justify their hostile takeover of our industry, assisted by the Washington State Legislature and, of course, enforced by LNI. Now, do you remember this Local 1671 leader? This is Milena Calderari-Waldron. Now, let me show you what she's been doing behind closed doors. You already know me, so go get your popcorn and come right back to watch the rest of this video. Now look at this public disclosure document from LNI and start reading from the top. Look at the date. As recent as December 15th, 2020, this local 1671 leader asked LNI for all records about any interpreter or interpreter service provider, pretty much agencies who has been subject of a complaint or investigation for the years 2012 to 2020. There you have it, always looking for dirt to trash L&I interpreters because they believe that finding anything at all would justify their flawed logic and their scheduling system as a selling point to you. So L&I responded and offered to narrow down this request to a list of complaints instead, to then provide specific requests and investigations. So this local 1671 Interpreters United leader replied to L&I saying that she would be happy with a list of complaints that would include interpreters and interpreter service providers for spoken languages, not sign language interpreters. So let's continue. Now, this is an explanation of the information provided by L&I. The data provided is up to date as of December 17th, 2020. And this is very important here. L&I says that not every complaint has sufficient information to warrant an investigation. Now, before we get any further, I want to disclose that I have seen a similar list of complaints before from previous public disclosure requests that I made, but only after receiving records from L&I about certain conversations that I requested between L&I and certain people. I would then see that some people have been requesting to see these complaints. I never requested this information because, frankly, it's none of my business. But Milena here is definitely very curious. Let's continue. And here is the list of complaints containing interpreters and language agencies. And of course, I blocked out the identities of these interpreters and the concerns or complaints. However, I saw that most of these complaints are about very few agencies and interpreters who appear to be listed on several complaints repeatedly here. And this is it. This is the second and last page of complaints for the last 8 years. Only 61 complaints from the same very few agencies and interpreters, not hundreds of complaints as you would have expected if we were so corrupt, right? Well, keep in mind that we have almost 1,300 interpreters in the L&I system. Now, many complaints lack sufficient information or enough evidence to justify an L&I investigation, and very few complaints result in disciplinary actions. And do you know what L&I does with those very few complaints that result in an investigation? Well, they audit these few people, as you can see here, because they get these fraud reports and determine when to investigate them. And they have a very effective fraud unit that catches these few violators and legally prosecutes them. So no, they do not need any help, especially from any other unions. But Milena here is always looking out for the best interest of the state, right? Always trying to help the state instead of looking out for interpreters. This is why she said years ago that the state shouldn't pay interpreters to drive, referring to mileage reimbursement, as you can see here. And that's why a lot of their own members did not support bargaining away their mileage, but they did it anyways, always manipulating data and crunching numbers to justify their actions. That's what these WFSE leaders do. That's how out of touch these WFSE leaders are. But they also influenced L&I to adopt their scheduling system and to take away our mileage without even representing us legally. It's all about, quote unquote, weathering the storm, as you can see here, waiting for interpreters to get tired of complaining and treating workers like peasants, because after all, they believe they know what's best for you even better than yourself. So, this last image here is to remind you all that Milena sits at the DSHS Advisory Committee with other WFSE overlords like Leroy Mold, their former president, who is a member of the Decertification Committee, and they have the power to take away your certification. In closing, you can see here that these WFSE leaders often like to exaggerate these reports of misconduct from L&I interpreters. You have seen this from public disclosure requests documents from LNI, and these numbers do not support their agenda. So they have successfully influenced LNI to restrict independent interpreters from billing directly, except for walk-in, emergency, and urgent care appointments. And these appointments are very few. They have also influenced LNI to eliminate all language agencies because of a very few bad apples that have been dealt with successfully by LNI, as you have seen in this video. But hey, they had to get everyone punished because of a few bad apples. You see, WFSE Local 1671 leaders did all of this in order to hook up their friends with the scheduling system and the contract with LNI. They even try to get their own former president to be hooked up with the contract, as we have recently exposed. So no, I did not sign this petition from Ligia, and I would not advise you to do so. And of course, you are free to do whatever you want. But if you do sign this petition, you're going to be assisting WFSE leaders in labeling LNI interpreters as unethical workers who harass patients. A labor union should not be in the business of alienating the workers they're trying to represent. It doesn't make any sense. You see, we do not alienate DSHS interpreters. We want all interpreters, DSHS and LNI, to be able to take LNI appointments within a real and truly fair dual system with a company that pays on time and respects workers. Find the instructions in the description below to send us your signed card. Like this video and subscribe to our channel in order to keep on getting more relevant information for our interpreting community. See you in the next video. Do not lose hope, and as always, God bless.